Story 1. Vin Diesel becomes the hero of the slums. Vin Diesel was a man of few words, a towering figure with muscles rippling beneath his leather jacket and eyes that reflected the weight of many battles. He'd seen it all. The thrill of high-speed chases, the rush of taking down villains, but he knew that there were some battles that couldn't be won with strength alone. One dark evening, with the streets bathed in the dim light of flickering street lamps, Vin Diesel drove his classic car into the heart of a slum. He'd been here before, but it had been a long time. This place felt different now. The setting. The roads were littered with trash, and crumbling buildings stood like ghosts, their broken windows staring out into the night. There was no sound of children playing, no shouts of joy or greetings from the community. The air felt thick with hopelessness, as though the place itself had given up. Vin Diesel pulled up to the end of an alley. He knew what he had to do here. He could feel it in his bones. He was the one who had to help, the one who had to bring light back to this forgotten place. His breath came slow and steady as he stepped out of the car. It was time to face whatever was waiting for him. He walked down the alley, hearing the faint sound of children laughing. But these weren't the carefree laughs of kids enjoying their childhood. These were the strained, hollow laughs of kids who had seen too much too soon. As he approached, he saw a group of children huddled around a small fire, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollow with worry. A young boy, no more than 12, looked up at him with tired eyes. His clothes were ragged, his skin darkened from the dirt of the streets. Boy, with a hint of resignation. "Are we ever going to get out of here?" Vin Diesel stared at him for a moment, then gave him a small, reassuring smile. Vin Diesel, calmly. "No, kid, not yet. But you will. I'm gonna make sure of it." The boy said nothing, but his eyes softened, a flicker of hope passing through them for the first time in what seemed like forever. Vin Diesel knelt down beside the kids, the warmth of the fire casting shadows on his face. He started to talk to them, to make them feel heard. Even though they didn't know who he was, something about his presence brought a sense of calm, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was hope after all. As the night wore on, the slum became a battleground of its own. A gang of ruthless criminals who had taken over this area with iron fists was making their nightly rounds. The people in this neighborhood were too scared to fight back, too impoverished to do anything but comply with the gang's demands. Vin Diesel wasn't one to stand by and watch. He knew what had to be done, and he wasn't going to wait for someone else to step up. He arrived at a rundown house at the end of the alley. A family was being forced by the gang to pay an extortionate rent, their entire savings about to be taken. As the family looked on helplessly, one of the gang members, a burly man with tattoos covering his arms, was pushing them around. Vin Diesel was already moving before he even realized it. He approached the scene, his footsteps deliberate, steady. The gang members didn't notice him at first. They were too focused on their victims. Vin Diesel, shouting as he approached, "Hey! You got a problem here?" The gang leader, a tall, lean man with cold eyes, turned around with a smirk. Gang leader, mockingly, "Oh? What do we have here? A tough guy playing hero?" Vin Diesel didn't respond with threats. Instead, he stepped forward, his presence enough to make the gang take notice. They could see it in his eyes. He wasn't here to play games, and he wasn't leaving without making sure these people were safe. Vin Diesel, with quiet intensity. "I don't care who you think you are. You're not going to hurt these people anymore." The leader sneered, and the rest of the gang shifted uneasily. But they didn't back down. Gang leader, snarling, "You think you can take us all on by yourself? Get out of here before you regret it." Vin Diesel didn't even flinch. His eyes never left the gang leader as he spoke, his voice calm but unwavering. Vin Diesel, with a hint of a smile, "I'm not here to fight you, but if you don't leave right now, I will." Without waiting for a response, Vin Diesel stepped forward. It wasn't about fists or violence. It was about standing tall in the face of fear. He wasn't going to back down. For a moment, it seemed as though the gang would resist. But something in Vin's demeanor, the calm, the confidence, the utter refusal to show weakness, made them hesitate. Finally, the gang leader cursed under his breath. Gang leader, grumbling. Fine, we're out of here. But don't think this is over.
With that, they turned and left, their pride bruised, but unwilling to take on someone like Vin Diesel. After the gang had fled, Vin Diesel didn't leave. He stayed with the community, organizing food drives, offering assistance with repairs, and using his influence to bring in resources. He didn't just want to chase the criminals away, he wanted to help these people rebuild. Vin Diesel stood before a group of residents gathered in the heart of the slum. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Vin Diesel, addressing the crowd, "We don't need to live in the dark anymore. We're gonna rebuild this place together, and we'll make sure that no one ever has to face what you've been through again." The residents looked at each other, uncertain at first. But as Vin Diesel's words echoed through the air, something shifted. They felt the first flicker of hope that they hadn't felt in years. Maybe, just maybe, things could get better. A young girl approached him afterward, her eyes bright with gratitude. "Girl," softly, "thank you for everything. You've given us something we didn't think we'd ever have again." Vin Diesel just nodded, his expression softening. Vin Diesel, smiling gently, "You don't need to thank me. You all deserve a chance. I'm just here to make sure you get it. We fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot protect themselves. Strength isn't about power. It's about helping others rise." The morning after the gang was chased off, Vin Diesel stood at the edge of the slum, watching as the first rays of light pierced through the horizon. The streets still carried the marks of destruction, but there was something different today. There was a sense of possibility. He was talking to the leaders of the community now, a group of people who had lived under the thumb of fear and oppression for far too long. Today, they were ready to fight back, but not with weapons. Their fight would be for a better life, a brighter future. Vin Diesel, speaking to the leaders, "We can't do this alone, but together, we have the power to change everything." One of the older men in the group, a former construction worker with a face weathered by time, nodded thoughtfully. His name was Hassan, and he'd seen the worst of what life had to offer. But now, in the presence of Vin Diesel, he could see a glimmer of hope. Hassan, with a faint smile, "You're right. For too long we've been afraid, but not anymore. We stand with you." With those words, the seed of change was planted. Over the next few weeks, Vin Diesel worked tirelessly with the community. They organized a network of volunteers, from teachers to healthcare workers, to help rebuild the slum. They set up makeshift schools for the children, offering free education. They fixed broken homes, provided food and supplies, and helped those in need. Despite the growing opposition from the remnants of the criminal syndicates, the community stood firm. Vin Diesel had ignited a fire within them, and that fire was unstoppable. However, the danger was far from over. Word quickly spread throughout the underworld about Vin Diesel's intervention in the slums. The gang that had once ruled these streets wasn't going to let some stranger come in and disrupt their business. One evening, as Vin Diesel was walking through the community center, the door slammed open. A man, tall, dark, and with an unsettling air of authority, strode in. He wasn't from the original gang, but he was a much bigger fish. His name was Franco the Hammer Vasilyev, a ruthless crime boss known for his iron grip on the city's underground. Franco, in a cold, measured tone, "I hear you've been stirring up trouble, Diesel. You've made a big mistake." Vin Diesel didn't flinch. He had faced countless enemies, but this one felt different. The weight of Franco's presence was undeniable. He was a man who commanded fear just by walking into a room. Vin Diesel, calmly, "I'm not here to make mistakes, Franco. I'm here to stop men like you from ruining lives." Franco's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, the two men simply stared at each other. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Franco let out a low chuckle. Franco, mocking, "You think you can stop me? I control everything in this city. People like you don't last long when they cross me." Vin Diesel, with quiet determination, People like me don't fight for control, Franco. We fight for something much bigger. The words hung in the air like a challenge, and the room seemed to grow colder. Franco's face hardened, his patience wearing thin. Franco, snarling. You've got a lot of heart, I'll give you that. But that's not enough to save you. You've made a mistake. This isn't your fight. The days following Franco's visit were filled with a palpable sense of unease. The community was shaken, but Vin Diesel remained unshaken. He knew the danger was closing in, and he needed to prepare. But he wasn't going to back down. Not now. He called a meeting with the community leaders and a few trusted allies. Vin Diesel, addressing the group. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about standing up to a system that has broken too many people. Franco's not going to stop until he crushes us, but we're not going to let him. Hassan, who had become a close ally, stepped forward with conviction. Hassan, gritting his teeth. We may not have the resources they have, but we have something they don't. We have each other. We fight as one. Vin Diesel smiled, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. These people weren't afraid anymore, and neither was he. The plan was simple. They would draw Franco and his men into the open, lead them into the heart of the community, and make it clear that this wasn't a place where they could intimidate anyone anymore. The streets, now filled with people who stood together, would be their battlefield. The night of the confrontation arrived. Franco's men came in full force, weapons in hand, ready to send a message. But they were met with a wall of resistance. The community stood firm, their eyes filled with the fire of defiance. Franco, shouting to his men, "Crush them! Show them who's in charge here!" But as the fight ensued, something unexpected happened. The people who had once cowered in fear were now standing tall, united by the cause Vin Diesel had ignited within them. They fought with a fierce determination, their every move driven by the desire to protect their homes, their children, their futures. Vin Diesel was in the thick of it, moving with precision, taking down the gang members one by one. His focus was unwavering, his every action a testament to the strength of his resolve. And then, Franco appeared. The two men locked eyes once more, and this time, there was no hesitation. Franco lunged, but Vin Diesel was faster. With a single swift move, he disarmed Franco, throwing him to the ground. Vin Diesel, looking down at Franco. "You've lost. You're not welcome here." Franco scrambled to his feet, rage burning in his eyes. But he knew deep down that this was over. The community had won. The people had found their strength, and Vin Diesel had helped them realize that their power was in their unity, not in fear. The days after the battle were filled with celebration and rebuilding. Franco and his men had been driven out for good, and the slums, once a place of hopelessness, were now a symbol of resilience. Vin Diesel stood in the middle of the community, watching the children play, the laughter filling the air. It wasn't just the slum that had been rebuilt, it was the spirit of its people. Vin Diesel, to himself, quietly, this is what it's all about. Strength isn't just in fighting, it's in never giving up on each other. As he walked away, a young girl came up to him, her eyes full of gratitude. Girl, with a bright smile, "Thank you, Vin. You saved us." Vin Diesel bent down to her level, his smile warm but humble. Vin Diesel, "No, kid. You saved yourselves. I was just here to remind you of what you're capable of." The girl hugged him tightly, and for the first time in his life, Vin Diesel felt a warmth inside that no victory, no race, and no battle could ever match. We fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot protect themselves. Strength is not about power. It's about standing together.